Hello and welcome back to Backyard Catch. This is Nick Roby and once again joined by Will Harper. Will, how's it going on this great July evening?
It's going well, Nick. This is the first tonight. I am actually driving at the moment I'm recording. So if you hear any honks, it wasn't me. So
I like the story. So Will was gracious to join us and via phone audio as he's driving along. And so thanks for listening, guys. I know it's been a little in and out just of just timing of just podcasts. I'm sure with y'all too, but life's been pretty busy for us as well over here. And so just trying to time out podcasts and things. Sometimes just life just happens, and we're already in July, but it's been a pretty crazy 7 months. So we're excited to talk about some sports. We have baseball coming back this week. It is official. It's coming back.
It is. There have already been a couple of scrimmages on TV. I know I've watched the Braves had an intra-squad scrimmage then over the weekend. ESPN actually carried a couple of games, including the Mets and the Yankees. It's officially here.
Yeah, so fun. Officially the start of the year, seeing sports on TV. It's a little weird, even because it's been weird to not see it on TV. And they're like, oh, these are real games. Well, they're practice games, but just seeing them actually have some content out there. So
yeah,
pretty fun.
Close enough to a real game, so we'll take it.
Yeah. And so for those of you who don't know, the baseball season is starting this week. And so I was going to have Will, do you mind giving the people, if they haven't been keeping it up as in tune to baseball world, what kind of the plan is for baseball going forward right now?
Sure. So no deal ended up being made between Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association. So essentially, Rob Manfred finally came in and he was like, okay, we're going to have a 60-game season, report to camp by X date. Season's going to start on July 23rd or 24th. It's going to be a 60-game season. You'll get paid for 60 games. The players all along, they just wanted to get paid for all the games they played. They would have liked to have played more, but the owners only wanted to essentially pay for 60 games. So they kind of played hardball until it got to the point where the players pretty much had to play the games that the owners wanted to pay for. Anyways, all water under the bridge now. The sad thing, though, is that we're not going to get any expanded playoffs this year. That was one of the things on the table if they could have come to an agreement. But since there was no agreement and Manfred pretty much just said, okay, here's what the plan's going to be, there's not going to be an expanded playoffs. So it's going to be the classic winner of the East, Central, and West. Then two wild cards are going to have a wild card game in each league. The season is going to consist of 60 games apiece for all the teams. So you're going to play the four other teams in your division 10 times apiece. So that comes out to 40 games. And then your remaining 20 games are going to be divided up between the opposite league, that same division. So, for example, the Braves and the Orioles will play this year because the National League East and the American League East will match up for 20 games.
Yeah, they will. You got to go through the Orioles to get to the playoffs, Will.
There you go. I mean, I refrain from speaking further on the issue. But, yes, they will be playing this year.
That's fun. And isn't it true, too, that they're doing like a universal DH as well?
They are. There is going to be a universal DH. A lot of people seem to think that this is the gateway for the universal DH to become permanent. I've always kind of been on the side of I like seeing pitchers hit. I like seeing kind of the strategy in the late innings of, okay, your pitcher has only given up 2 runs, but he's up in the 7th and you're tie ball game and a runner's on second, 2 outs. So do you like hit for your pitcher or do you let him go out and try to pitch another inning? Also, probably not going to get a hit. I like seeing the strategy of a National League game more. I definitely see the benefit of having a universal DH, at least this season. It's such a weird, unique type of season.
Sure. Yeah, I think it makes sense for this year to have a universal DH just because it keeps it more simplistic. You get another bat in the lineup for people, and which can make a big deal in a shortened season to get some stats for some guys and make it a little simpler. But yeah, I do start to wonder if there might be more of a push for it, where they're like, well, it worked well in this year, why not later? And so it does kind of feel that even though they didn't reach a deal, that the owners kind of won on some points more by default from running at a time. But I agree. I do love that style of the National League where there's a lot of strategy that comes involved. And what do you do? Like, how long do you keep your pitcher in?
Right. And I think the Players Association would like to have a DH because if every team has a DH, that's 15 more jobs that just opened up. So every National League team would need a DH. So I think that the players would probably like that long term. They can have their pitchers just focus on pitching. So we'll see how it plays out after this year. Before we kind of get into the division breakdown, are there any National League teams that you can think of that have a built-in edge in the DH just based on their personnel they already have?
Yeah, that's a good question. The one that comes to mind first, well, I have to remember how many outfielders they have. I feel like the Dodgers always have like 4 outfielders. So I feel like for a team like them, that could be beneficial.
At least 4, possibly 6.
Yeah, they always have at least a couple. But no,
I was going to say that the Dodgers are kind of the first team to stand out to me too. The Braves actually are set up pretty well too, since they signed Marcell Ozuna this year. They were going to have him be their everyday left fielder, but now, since his defense isn't the best, they can slide him into the DH role from time to time and just have his bat in the lineup. So I think they set up well. And the other team that came to mind was the Cubs with Kyle Schwarber. Like, he's not the best defender really anywhere, but he can rake. So you can have his bat in the lineup too. I think that there are a handful of teams that I think that have a natural advantage just based on some of their personnel already. The Reds too, with Castellanos and Moustakas, those signings. So yeah, I think there's some clubs that have an advantage, but it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out with the DH this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just the fact that it can be like a half of a rest for a guy, which is also a strategy too of you can use the DH as a way to give the guy kind of a day off where he only doesn't have to play the field. Someone maybe like Acuna or somebody could actually be a DH for a day and just take a break from fielding as well, which can be a big deal too. So
and that could be vital too in such a short season where every game, essentially about the games in the regular season. So everyone's going to be trying to win every game, if at all possible. So having your lineup, having your full lineup constantly, or your best lineup to go out there, is going to be very important. So that was a good point you brought up, where hey, have this guy play the field one day and switch him out from the guy to next and let him have a half day's rest. It's a really good thought process there.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting for sure. And then also another note, which is kind of interesting for me, is that I don't know if you've fully heard this too, but I'm still learning some about it. Is that the Blue Jays still actually don't have a home stadium?
Correct.
So. Yeah, so the crazy part is, if those of you haven't heard, is that Canada is actually doing a lot better with numbers with COVID-19 as compared to the United States, where the United States is leading the world in cases, where the United States is getting about 60,000 cases of COVID. They're getting about 200 to 300 a day in Canada, but the Toronto Blue Jays are trying to appeal to be able to play their games at home, because basically if they're playing their games at home, then all these other teams would be coming to visit them and going through the border. So it's kind of one of the drawbacks in these kind of situations to having a team from outside the U.S. is that you're dealing with another government, and they were denied their request over the weekend. So they don't technically have a home ballpark right now. And so now they're trying to figure out, the team is trying to throw out their minor league stadiums or some other places, whereas the players are like, we want to play in a major league quality stadium. But the problem is you don't just have one of those stadiums unless you have a team. So they're trying to kind of work out a deal maybe. I was listening to one of the Baseball Tonight podcast for a bit, and they're throwing out they might have a deal maybe with the Pittsburgh Pirates, say for example, where they play home games there instead. But it's kind of they might be kind of like a traveling team this year where they just kind of bounce around. So that's a big disadvantage for them. It
is. But they have we wouldn't imagine them to be contenders this year anyway. They're still a couple years away, but they have a ton of young talent, which we've talked about before. But yeah, I've heard Buffalo may be an option. I've heard that their spring training park down in Florida may be an option. But of course, with all the Florida issues right now with their daily case amounts, that's not the most ideal location either.
No.
So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where they go. Will they have a couple of days to figure it out? So I'm sure we'll be hearing something here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll figure something out, but it's going to be kind of weird. They're probably playing on the road first, just to kind of give.
Yeah, I know the schedules are out. I haven't looked at the Blue Jays schedule, so I don't know where they're playing at, whether it's home or away to start the season. I would look, but eyes on the road. 10-2.
Hands 10-2. Will.
Right now, I'm at a left hand off and right hand at a 4 position. So
okay,
I'm not in trouble. Do you want to go ahead and hop into our division breakdowns?
Let's do it. Yeah, well, we can give a quick. We were going to do it just a quick breakdown of just talking about each division and then probably picking a winner or just who we like coming out of there. Do you want to start in the National League or the American League?
We'll start in the American League. Start alphabetical.
Alphabetical. Okay. Well, then if that's the case, let's start with my division, the AL East. So we got quick breakdown. Let's see. We got the Blue Jays that we talked about. We can go from there. Like you said, they've got some young talent, but I think there's some time away for me. So I'll give you my breakdown of the order. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to go Yankees, New York Yankees 1, Tampa Bay Rays 2, Red Sox 3, Blue Jays 4, and my Orioles, a very nice 5th place for them. And the Yankees kind of stand out to me just because they've got so much talent, and I think that they've spent a lot of money on free agency, and this might be a year where if it's all healthy and all comes together and in a shortened season, they could get really hot and become, the favorite coming out of the American League. And now they also have Garrett Cole. I think it's just kind of I think they're going to be one of the finalists for sure in the American League. And a team like Tampa Bay, they're good, but they're still young, and I just think that the Yankees are too strong. And just to give a little highlight for my Orioles, they're in a rebuilding phase. I think they're kind of hoping for the number 1 overall pick again. Viewing teams like that are viewing this as I'm sure as a time to rebuild and give some guys some major league at bats still and kind of see what they have. But they've done a lot of trading and even so it's kind of hard. It's gonna be harder for them. And I know from the American League, they're looking at a team like the Orioles or the National League as a team to hopefully pick up some games on each other, that kind of thing. So what are your thoughts on the AL East?
Your order is the exact same order I was thinking. And I think it's kind of the order it's pretty universal on the AL East. I think that's kind of the order everyone's picturing how it's going to end up. The Yankees, I think, are probably the best team in baseball this year. and the Rays are sneaky good. I know you like that phrase of sneaky good. That's the Rays this year. I think that they are going to definitely get one of the wild card spots.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Red Sox won't be too far behind. I think they'll miss out a little bit. And then, of course, the Blue Jays, I mentioned. And then your O's hanging out at the bottom down there. Now, you mentioned how you think they're going for the number one pick. Between the AL East and the NL East, how many games will they be favored in?
The Orioles?
Yeah, because we haven't talked about the NL East yet, but Vegas has 4 of the 5 teams in the NL East in the top 10 favorites to win the World Series. So they have to play each of those plus the Yankees 10 times, Rays 10 times, Red Sox 10 times, and then the Blue Jays. Luckily, they have the Marlins. So do you think that they'll be favored in over or under 15 games?
Under, for sure. If they're favored, they are. I think they will be favored for when they play the Marlins at home.
Okay.
I don't know much more than that. Those ones might be the only games, but
so you got a good year and a good schedule to get the number one pick next year.
Yeah, I feel confident about the number one pick. I think that's what I'm kind of going for. No, but for real, as a fan of that of my team, I kind of know. I mean, it's to be what's expected. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the fact that baseball is going to be back, and that we get to see some kind of form of it in general, and just to see players and everything. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. But yeah. So yeah,
you ready to hit the AL Central?
AL Central, I feel like this might be the division that gets talked about the least, I think, in all of baseball. Just, I don't know. It's just always feels kind of like they're all kind of clumped together. From my perspective, it's a division that feels they're kind of clumped together. And then unless, like when we had the Indians a few years ago, that kind of stood out. It's usually kind of clumped together. But for me, I've got the Twins coming out of the Central, just because they
do as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think getting a guy like Donaldson's good. They've got pitching. They've got Sano at third base. Well, they've got Sano as also as kind of first base, third base, DH kind of a thing. I think being in the AL, Donaldson was fun on the Braves. I know you enjoyed having him, but I feel like for his career, it makes sense to switch to an AL piece just so he could be more of a DH as he gets older. But I just like the Twins, and I think I feel confident about them coming out. After that, it's kind of hard to pick as I'm thinking through it. I feel like I would say the Indians probably number 2, just because they have some strong pieces still, and they've always just been pretty strong recently. Let's see, 3. We've got the Tigers, we've got the Royals, and what other team am I not thinking of from the Central?
The White Sox.
White Sox. Okay. Then I'm going to go White Sox 3, just because they've got some young talent, and I think they could get hot. And then I'm going to go Tigers 4, and then Royals 5. But I think the Twins are definitely the top team in that division.
I agree on that. See, here's kind of my wild card special. I think that the White Sox are going to be the second wild card with the Rays.
Okay.
I think that the short season and the youth and energy that the White Sox have is going to play up for them to have. I don't know if it's going to be a special season, but I think it's going to be a fun season and one that'll pay off with a playoff berth in the wild card game. I think they're gonna give the Twins a run for their money, actually, for the top spot. Now, with me saying this, it's probably the kiss of death, and they're probably going to finish 5th in the division. But as of now, I'm going to stand on this hill and proclaim that the White Sox will make the playoffs this year.
I like it. They've got some young talent, and I think they're kind of under the radar as a sneaky good team that you have to kind of watch out for. So I like that. Did you have any other thoughts on the Central that you wanted to?
Yeah, I think that this will be Lindor's last year in Cleveland. I think they're going to end up trading him. I don't know if they'll trade him midseason. It probably could have happened had they played a full season, but I don't know if it'll happen during the season or not. But I think he'll get moved. And then the Royals, I'm not looking for too much out of them this year. But yeah, I've got my handlebar mustache right now, so I'm feeling confident. So I'm rocking with the White Sox.
I like it. And for those of you who can't see, it's a pretty strong handlebar mustache. I'm actually impressed that it's lasted this long, because it's like that amazing that it's kind of one of those it's surprising that it's been around this long, just because it's just so amazing to look at. So I'm impressed.
My wife has not murdered me yet, so I'm still kicking. So far, everyone that's listened to me, every man that has said something has thought it was awesome, and every woman has hated it. So I'd say that's a strong demographic pool of what I was expecting.
Yes, that is. I mean, that I could have. That falls in line with this sidebar handlebar that I'm going to talk about. So for a long time, I like to take surveys. I like to ask people questions and kind of take my own internal questions, where I like to ask a lot of the same questions and see kind of what people say. Like, one for me would be like, what superhero power do you like? That's a good starter question for me. Or, this is always a fun question to ask, because it's very interesting to see what people's thoughts are. And most of the time, with mustaches in particular, it's other men are what are impressed with the mustache. And most of the time women are not, unless the women's, like the girl's dad had a mustache. That usually seems to be when it's kind of like, oh, like I could be okay with that. But usually it's other men who are like, I love that.
Oh yeah. And that's what I've seen so far today. So, all right, enough of the facial hair conundrum. Let's move on to the AL West.
AL West. So pre-COVID, I think America's favorite team to talk about was the Houston Astros and what was going to happen when the season started. And then, because, if for those of you who hadn't heard, they had been rumor was they had been kind of cheating with deciding and giving away what pitches were coming using videos with trash cans. And people didn't like that, and didn't like how the players are kind of like, I'm sorry that you're upset, was kind of like their apology for some of them. So it was going to be an interesting thing. And now we're in the space of like, there's been some time removed, but now I even saw a preview of an article of like, what happens now that fans can't boo the Astros on the road, which I thought was a very interesting premise. And I know that sports writers are having a hard time, but you're like, yeah, that's right. Like, you would think about every like away game, like there'd be some people booing the Astros just because of all that had been going on. But that being said, I still have them coming out of the AL West. I think that they're strong. And I think even though they lost Garrett Cole, who is great talent, they just have a lot of strong pieces together that I just feel the most confident about them coming out of the West. I feel like they're a very strong team. And I think they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder too, just from all the negative publicity, and just sometimes that can really band a team together and kind of be like us against the world kind of feeling. And so that's what I have with them. It's just that they have that going for them. And then let's see, number 2, I'm going to go again, the Oakland A's. Billy Beane just knows how to field a team, and they just put pieces together that are always strong. That just are able to work together, and they always just manage to. It just always seems to be that they kind of slip into that second wild card spot, which is where I have them playing the Rays. Just because they just seem to kind of do that, and I just enjoy the way they play. And then you got teams like the Angels who re-signed Mike Trout, to a big deal, but they can't seem to get in the playoffs for him. And it does start to get to a point where like, what do you like? You got to eventually capitalize on arguably the most talented player in this generation who's winning MVPs, but can't seem to get into the playoffs, which is just a very interesting phenomenon. And then you've got the Rangers and the Mariners, and I think they'll finish 4-5, and I don't think they'll be as big of a factor just in this year. But that's my order I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I don't want to have the Astros first, but I do. I think you kind of have to until proven otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Angels to come in second this year. I like the addition of Anthony Rendon for a couple reasons.
Yes.
First, it's protection for Trout in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how they're going to exactly bat them, but I imagine Trout in the 3 spot and Rendon in the 4 spot. So he offers that protection for Trout. Second reason being he's now out of the NL East, so the Braves don't have to play him a lot. That's the main reason. That's number one why I'm happy to see him on the Angels. Second for Mike Trout's protection. But he's a great player. I mean, he's one of the top 3 third basemen in baseball right now. Him and Arenado and probably Chapman with the A's are probably my 3 favorite. Well, Bregman's there too. There are a lot of good third basemen. But he's definitely up there in that upper echelon of top guys out there. So I like them to come in second. The A's, I think they're gonna be good, hang around in third, and then like you said with the Mariners and the Rangers in 4 and 5. Now we talk about this, and the crazy part is, like with the Rangers, mm-hmm. they're not going to be mathematically eliminated until like the last week of the season. So the exciting part about this season is you may have 5 games that separates your first place team and your fourth place team.
Right.
So the final stretch and even down to probably the final days of the season are going to be a lot of fun to watch because you're going to have a lot of races that come down to the very end. Mm-hmm. And I think that could help a team like the Angels or, like I mentioned earlier, the White Sox, teams that over a full season maybe don't have enough consistency to pull out a playoff type season over the course of 162. But hey, the 60-game stretch is a different ball game.
Yeah.
So that's how I see the West.
I like it. Okay, so I think all right. Let's move to the NL. We can move the NL East, your favorite division. I'll let you go first with the NL teams. How about that? You say favorite division. Well, I hate the division itself, but I love the Braves. So my favorite team and my least favorite division. But I think last year I did not pick the Braves to win the East to start the season, and then we did our mid-season catch-up, and I switched to the Braves. This year I am going to pick the Braves from the onset to win the division. I think that the team just got better. Markakis decided not to play, which I can't blame him. Yeah. So the Braves lefties in the lineup, there's not a lot of them. There's going to be Freeman. Albies is a switch hitter. Camargo is going to play third a lot. He's a switch hitter. But most of the bats in the Braves lineup this year are righties that could play against them if you have a strong starter. Like, for example, opening night, they're going up against Jacob deGrom from the Mets. So when you have a dominant righty starter, mm-hmm. which there are a lot of in the NL East, it'll be tough. But I think overall, I mean, Acuna is a year older. Albies is a year older. Freddie is in his prime, and he's back now from his COVID diagnosis. And then, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, the addition of Ozuna. I think that top 4 in the lineup may be the best top 4 in baseball. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I like the Braves to come in first. I like the Phillies to come in second. I think that they signed Zach Wheeler. Bryce Harper is another year into the system. They got Didi Gregorius as an addition. So I think that the Phillies are primed for a really good season. A lot of people like the Mets to finish like top. Some people like them to win or even finish top 2. Mm-hmm. I have them fourth. I have the Nationals, the defending champs, in third.
everything I mentioned about Rendon earlier, it kind of plays against the Nationals. So you have to replace that key cog in your lineup and on your defense. And then, like I said, the Mets I have in fourth, and then the Marlins hanging out down in the cellar. But I think from the Braves to the Mets, I think it's only going to be like 3 or 4 games between those 4 teams. I think it's going to be really tight. And then the last week of the season, I'm going to pull my hair out. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah,
What you got?
Yeah, I was gonna say that honestly. So Will and I have not shared our division picks, and that's actually exactly how I like the division. However, I think you're right. The top, and arguably the first 4 teams other than Miami, like it's going to be a very close. It's probably going to be the tightest race all year. However, I think there are things for like the Braves where the system and there's just a culture there, and there's a lot of pieces that I just really like, and I think that they can be a team that gets really hot and be like Acuna or Freddie can carry that team really well. And then I've got it's. I mean, for me, it's a matter of can the pitching, withstand the whole time.
All right. Yeah, they're going to have a really young rotation.
Like can Soroka and Fultz like really like can they continue and build on the momentum and really what I mean? Like can they continue to be good for that team? Right. Phillies I think is a good pick for second. Like they feel like a good team, but the Braves just have a little more pieces that I like. And the Nationals are the defending World Series champions, and whereas in baseball it's really hard to repeat, and there can even be times where a champion doesn't even make the playoffs, which that's what I would have this year. But I think that they're still a really good team even without Rendon. The Mets, for me, you have to kind of prove it for me to pick you like higher. Other than the World Series a few years ago, they just there's just always something that's going on with them, and so I'm like, you got Jacob deGrom, but you gotta play the whole time. So and then there's Miami. So that's what I've got. But
okay,
yeah, with my. All right. Phillies being one of my wild card teams, but I'll let you get started on the NL Central.
Okay. All right. In the NL Central, a lot of people are in on the Reds this year.
I've heard that.
I was talking to my father-in-law about it over the weekend because they're all Cardinals fans out of St. Louis. And even he was saying that the Reds are going to be legit this year, but I don't have them winning that division. I have the Cubs. I think that I think their lineup is going to be very potent. I think that the DH, like I mentioned earlier, is going to help. So you can have Schwarber's bat in the lineup, and especially if he gets hot. He's one of those bats that if he gets hot, I mean, look out. So I like them to actually win the division. I like the Reds to come in second and it to be a tight race and the Reds to take one of the wild card spots. Then I like the Cardinals in third, the Brewers in fourth, and the Pirates in last in that division. With, like I said, with the Reds taking one of the 2 wild card spots.
Okay. I like those. Now, I will say we're going to differ here. I think we've been pretty close so far. But for the NL Central, I actually like the Brewers to be my division winner.
Okay.
I think with Yelich back and healthy, that could be really strong for them. I like the way they play, and I think that could be really strong for them. And also, again, for these Central teams, I think there's a couple teams in the AL Central they can kind of pick up some W's against. So I've got the Brewers winning the division, and I like the Reds too. I don't love them enough to like pick the division, but I think they've added some good pieces to where they can be a fun team, and I see them also as a wild card team. And then I'm going to go Cubs fourth, and then sorry Chelsea, I'm picking your Cardinals fourth.
So Cubs third and Cardinals fourth.
Cubs third, Cardinals fourth. Okay. I think I said fourth twice, but Cubs. I think they just have more offense, but I think this will be a close division too. I think it's going to be a very close, and then the Pirates. Unfortunately, they'll just be pulling up the rear in that one. But I think those 2 divisions will be very competitive the NL Central and the NL East, where you'll see 4 of the 5 playoff teams coming from there.
Okay. So yeah, I have my other wild card team coming from the West because I think that the NL East winner is going to end up having the worst record among the 3 division winners because they're going to beat up on each other so much, along with the AL East. I think that because the East is by far the toughest schedules amongst all the teams.
Sure.
So I think it's only going to have. I think the East is only going to have 1 playoff team when it's all said and done.
Okay.
So with that being said, you going to move out west?
Let's do it.
All right. In the West, I have the Dodgers winning the West, which I think is pretty standard across the board. Sure. I think they're going to have the best record in the National League, which I think is also pretty standard across the board. They're just awesome. Between their pitching, their hitting, like Bellinger can play 5 positions it seems like. With the DH, they're going to be able to keep some combination of all those outfielders and utility players in the lineup each and every day. They did lose Hyunjin Ryu to the to be determined Blue Jays,
right?
Which I think that is going to hurt them because he was solid up there in their rotation. But Bueller's got a full year, and then of course Clayton Kershaw's there. So yeah, I think top to bottom, they're an easy number 1. So number 2 is where it starts getting interesting.
Okay.
I think this is the year the Padres actually do something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think like kind of the same formula that I said for the White Sox also applies to the Padres. I think that they're able to kind of ride some momentum, maybe win some games they're not supposed to. And then that young core with Machado and Tatis kind of leading the way. It's gonna lead them into a playoff push and a wild card spot where they will barely edge out the Phillies for that spot. Third, I was debating whether to put the Rockies or the Diamondbacks here. It's kind of like 3A and 3B for me. In fact, I think they might even end up tied. But I'll give the edge to the Diamondbacks here because of the Madison Bumgarner signing. I think that he's worth at least 1 or 2 wins by himself.
Sure.
Over the course of a 60-game season, if he's healthy. With that being said, then the Rockies win 4th, and then the Giants holding down the last spot out west.
Okay. I like that. I agree. I have the Dodgers as the division winner, and I think in the NL West, it's kind of like until somebody else beats them, they're kind of the plug-in division winner out there.
Right.
And also, what another just talking point with them is I also believe that David Price has decided not to play.
That is correct.
He did pay for a bunch of minor leaguers' salaries for a bit, but that is a big signing that they got in trying to help probably replace Ryu's departure, so that they kind of have both of them off right now. But I think the Dodgers are clearly the best team in the West. Number 2, you're higher on the Padres than I am. Maybe it's my I'm still a little upset at Machado. So maybe it's a little personal. But because he used to play for the Orioles. But I have the Diamondbacks number 2. To me, I think the middle pack is they're kind of close together. So I have them to Colorado 3 just because they have some power, and then San Diego 4. And then San Francisco 5. But I only have 1 team coming out from the West. And for me, I think that the Dodgers are clearly the best team. And so that's what I've got.
Okay. So do you want to run through a quick playoff scenario?
Okay. Let's see.
And I'm going to try to remember my teams as I drive. Okay. So I'll go first while it's hot.
Okay.
While the iron's hot. All right. In the AL, I had the Rays and the White Sox in the wild card game. And I'm going to take the White Sox to win that.
Okay.
So I think that the Yankees are going to have the best record. So it'll be Yankees and White Sox. And then it will be Astros and Twins. I like the Yankees and the Twins, and then I like the Yankees to come out of the American League. All right. In the National League, I had the Padres and the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Reds to win the wild card game, and they'll take on the Dodgers, which means the Cubs and the Braves would play. I like the Dodgers to come out of that game against the Reds. And I believe it or not, for the first time in what seems like forever, I think the Braves will win a playoff series.
Okay.
And face the Dodgers, where they will subsequently get beat by the Dodgers. So I have Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series, and it pains me to say I have the Yankees winning it all this year.
Okay. Yeah, that would pain me too. Okay, I like your thought process. So here's my playoff team starting with the AL. I've got the Rays coming out of the AL East for the wild card and the Oakland A's, but I have the Rays winning that game. I also agree that the Yankees would be the best team in baseball. So I would be the Yankees and the Rays playing each other with the Yankees, I think, would win that. And then the Twins and the Astros, where I think the Astros still have too much firepower and too much of a chip on their shoulder. Just playing with, and still some momentum from a couple years ago too. So it'd be the Yankees and the Astros in a rematch of a very famous series that kind of got brought up. But I have the Yankees winning that series and going on to the World Series just because they have a lot of wanting to finish that chapter for themselves. I have the Yankees going to the World Series. So I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. So Yankees fans, I threw you a bone. But you have a really good team. And then in the National League, I have the Phillies and the Reds as my wild card teams, but I have the Phillies actually as the wild card winners. I think Harper has a big moment with his big hair flip, and he will just earn a little bit of his keep in Philadelphia. And then we have, let's see, the Dodgers, I think, would have the best records. I think it'd be the Dodgers and Phillies versus the Brewers and the Braves. And then I also have the Braves making it to the league championship series. I like them better than I do the Brewers. And I think they've got a lot of the young talent. And there's also not as much of a season, like as long of a season. So there's a lot more playing time for those guys. And then I have the Dodgers beating the Phillies. So I've got the Dodgers and the Braves. But then I also have the Dodgers making the World Series. So I know we come to all these places and then to end up with the same two teams. However, I like the Dodgers better. I'm picking the Dodgers. I can't pick the Yankees, Will. I can't do it. Even if I'm wrong, I'm going to stick to the Dodgers, and I'm going to keep picking the Dodgers until they win a World Series. But I think they have a very good chance this year. And I think also just honestly for baseball, having the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees in the World Series will be really good for baseball.
Yeah, that's like the Lakers Celtics. It's like a dream matchup.
I mean, you've got history. You've got history from the 70s, and I agree. And so there's a little part of me that's rooting for that just because I think it'd be good for baseball.
But I also think that this is a year where if you saw a Reds and Rays World Series, that wouldn't surprise me. Just because teams may get hot. I mean, you may be in fourth place in your division for the first 50 games, and then somehow you get on a 10-game win streak, win your last 10 games, make the playoffs as a wild card, and then win it all. So this is going to be a very strange year. We both kind of had it pretty chalky, but it wouldn't surprise me in the bit if this is a very weird year with a very weird champion.
Yep, I agree. It's either going to be very chalky or very weird. So any final thoughts before we wrap up for the night?
I'm just ready for, technically Thursday to get here because that's when the opening games are going to be. Mm-hmm. But definitely Friday whenever I finally get to watch the Braves play a real baseball game and not have to play the season on my PlayStation, which I'll continue to do. I'm gonna finish out the season. But yeah, it'll be nice to see like a real game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited. I think it'll be really fun, and I think it'll be good for the U.S. just to have one of their sports back. Even though we are more of a football culture now, it'll be really fun to have some baseball back, and I think just be fun to talk about some real games. So
For sure.
there you have it. Will's going with the Yankees, and I'm going with the Dodgers, but we're picking the same World Series guys. So yeah, tune in. We're recording this on a Monday, and so season starts this week, and so we're just jacked and ready to go to get started. So Will, as always, thank you for joining the podcast. It's been really fun.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, man. So thanks, guys. Remember to leave a review and subscribe if you like the podcast, and stay tuned for more episodes and more content. But thank you. And for now, we are signing off.